Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. So glad that you decided to tune in. Hey, we have a very, very, very special guest that we're going to talk to today. You know, I'm located in Oklahoma, and we have Austin Brubaker, who's there in Michigan. And so super excited to have the connection of Ryan Falla on the West Coast, who, hey, if you follow Dodgers 2080, Tim Rogers, who does just a wonderful job over there at Dodgers 2080, Stephen Douglas. Ryan writes a lot of his feature articles on his latest one was on Madison Jeffrey, has a wonderful baseball acumen, just does a great job for Dodgers 2080. He also covers the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Los Angeles Angels as well. So, Ryan, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. This has been a great season with the Quakes. There are a lot of great guys coming up. And I think that Dodger fans are going to be really happy with what they're going to see in a few years. It's really exciting.
No doubt about it. And the cool thing for you, every year, we're going to get into the 2023 draft class, but you get these guys when they're super excited. You know, this is their first time to be in affiliated baseball. For many of them, I'm actually talked to, first time ever to California. So, you know, it's a really cool experience to get to meet these guys that are so excited to be at the professional level.
Yeah, it's great meeting them. You know, we're at low weight, so you get a lot of kids that are like 18, 19. They're super excited. Yeah. They want to really experience professional baseball. And these coaches that they're surrounded with are so helpful in like getting them acclimated and comfortable so that they can perform at their best. It really is just like one of the best systems for a young player to come into.
It really is. Okay, one of the players that I want to talk about, I featured him in the last offseason out of West Virginia. I call him a straight-up dog. He has that dog mentality to him. He's hit 100 miles an hour with his fastball. He has an absolutely dirty slider. Got to throw more strikes. I think we would all agree with that. But, hey, what a wonderful piece you did for Tim at Dodgers 2080 on Madison Jeffrey. Talk about that piece.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. You know, Madison Jeffrey has been making so many improvements this year, and I really felt that it was important to highlight the progress he's made. The last month and a half has just been ridiculous. He's been so on point. He's going on streaks without giving up runs. His walks are down. He's striking guys out. He's closing out important games for the Quakes, and it's just been so good to see from him because he's such a good guy. He has like such a great closer mentality. It's like you said, he's a dog, and there's no one else on that team that personally I would rather see closing out big games than Madison Jeffrey. So I'm hoping that the Quakes in this current playoff run, I know they lost last night, but I hope that we could see an opportunity for Jeffrey to close out a playoff game.
Yeah, that would be super fun. And they actually moved Madison to starter there for a little bit, and he actually had a very good start his first time out. I believe he made like 3 starts, something like that, but back into the closer role and something that he is used to being dominant with. Okay, so let's talk about your situation with Dodgers 2080. You've written many different great stories. You get a chance to go to the games. I know you were at the game last night at Rancho. So talk about your work with Tim there at Dodgers 2080, your access to the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, and how cool that is.
Man, this is as good as it gets. It really is a dream position to be in. Getting to go to these Dodger games with these Dodger kids. It's, like I said earlier, one of the best organizations in baseball. And I get to have access to like all the top picks that come into the system, and I get to meet them right before anyone else really knows who they are. So it's a very valuable position to be in because a lot of people will be looking for information on these guys and will end up being one of the sources. You know, people like Dodgers Daily too. There are tons of Dodgers people who are really at ground level where you're not going to see a lot of coverage unless you come to us. So it's a really important job to make sure that we put these kids in the best light possible, make sure everyone understands who they really are as players and as people too. Because, you know, a lot of the people that read these articles are their parents and their families and even the players themselves. So it's really important to make sure that you're doing what you can to give these kids confidence. But at the same time, you still want to be as level-headed about how you are kind of just expressing your opinions about them. You don't want to be too much, but you don't want to be too little either. You know, you have to find that real sweet spot. And it's kind of hard. It took me like a year or two to really understand how to get to that point. But Tim at Dodgers 2080 has been such a great guide, really helping acclimate me to the level of coverage that we do on these kids. He does a lot of great like video interviews. He does a lot of great like in-game videos too, getting these kids pitching, hitting, warming up, doing bullpens, whatever. But there's so much coverage that you guys could find with Dodgers 2080. So it really is a privileged position to be in. I'm very thankful for it.
No doubt about it. You do a wonderful job for them. Okay, so hey, I want to get your thoughts. Not only do you cover obviously the single A Rancho Cucamonga Quakes there in California, you also cover the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Angels as well. So hey, give us your thoughts to the Dodgers season at this point.
It's been a really interesting season. It's definitely been a season where they've been most tested in terms of undiscovered talent at the major league level. There's been so many kids coming up with the Dodgers, and it's not really something that you're used to seeing. You usually see a lot of like really established guys at the major league level carrying the team. And earlier this season, like the first month of the Dodgers season, it was a bit tough. Some of these kids were still trying to figure it out. You had injuries, but it's the Dodgers. They get through it. They figure it out. And here they are once again, one of the best teams in the majors. Still have some question marks. You know, the pitching, starting pitching is the biggest one. This is probably I don't want to say the worst starting pitching that they've gone to in a playoff series with, but it definitely is one of the more difficult pitching rotations to see where they're going to scrounge up wins in playoff environments. So it'll be a test on Dave Roberts and definitely a test on Friedman to see the work he's done constructing this roster to get them through those difficult moments like that. It's definitely be one of the more exciting Dodgers series in recent memory.
I would totally agree with that. Super exciting for somebody who covers prospects like we do to get to see all these rookies get their chance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Personally, for me, that's one of the more exciting things about baseball. I know I'm probably a little bit biased as an Angels fan. Most of the time, they're always just throwing out young guys, young rookies, prospects, because they don't have too much at the major league level. Mm-hmm. So I'm just used to always seeing young guys figuring it out. And so it's really cool to see that on the Dodgers side, too, because they just have a way of really getting guys comfortable at the major league level. Even when they struggle, like James Outman started off real hot. He hit a bit of a slump. But the team was there to help him figure it out. You know, they never gave up on him. They never made him doubt himself. They just let him play it out. And then he's back on top, back to his usual self. And that's what you get when you have such a well-defined organization who knows how to make players comfortable and perform in the best positions possible. So it's going to be exciting, too, going forward because there's still so many young guys to call up. You know, you still got Michael Busch. You have a ton of prospect pitchers that are going to be coming up within the next year or two. I feel like this will probably be the youngest wave you'll see in recent Dodgers memory coming up within these next 2 years.
Mm-hmm. There is a ton of pitching still left to go. River Ryan made his AAA debut today. Nick Frasso, haven't seen him yet. Landon Knack, Alec Gamboa has had a tremendous year, left-hander for Oklahoma City. I know you guys got to see him at Rancho for a little bit. John Rooney's had a wonderful year. Ricky Vanasco just got moved up to AAA as well. Kevin Gowdy. Braden Fisher has had just probably the best year of any relief pitcher in the Dodgers organization. Then when you look at the left-handed pitchers at High A Great Lakes, when you look at Ronan Kopp, who just recently got moved to the pen, Justin Robleski, who has had the best season of any pitcher for the High A Great Lakes this year as far as a starter, the ridiculous stuff of Maddox Bruns, and then all just that Jared Karros has been, you're very familiar with him. You just got moved up from High A Great Lakes, but he has been just killing it since he got moved up to High A. And then you got all these great pitchers, you know, like Paytonmartin and those guys at the Rancho level. So it's just it's a bottomless pit of pitching in this organization.
Yeah, it's the best position you could be in as an organization. There's nothing more important than having a strong pitching core to go forward to build your future organization off of. And the Dodgers, I don't want to speak off bias, but I feel like they probably have the best prospect pitching core in the entire league, especially down at low A. Like, there's so many special things happening at low A. Like you said, Jared Karros, he just got called up. And it was so cool seeing his season firsthand because he came into the organization out of UCLA where he was really like start and stop as a pitcher. Not totally through fault of his own. He did have a COVID season to deal with. He did get hurt a couple times. And coming into the season, you were kind of wondering, like, would this be just him, like, trying to settle in, trying to figure it out? And he shows up and he dominates, and he's one of the best pitchers in the organization. And then on the other hand, you have Payton Martin, who comes in at 18, No one really knows who he is. Back before the season started, he was throwing like, he told me this himself, he was throwing like 92, 93 miles an hour. And then the first month of the season starts and he's hitting 98 and he's trying to go for 100. And he doesn't just have velocity, like he has such great pitchability. He's a dog, absolute dog on the mound. This kid dominates everything he does, whether it's pitching, whether it's the work he puts in behind the scenes. It's a lot of fun watching. He was a lot of fun getting snow, getting to cover. I think the Dodgers have so many great pitchers. They have a lot of great talent up in AAA. But I personally think that Paytonmartin is their best pitching prospect. He's not as developed as other guys, but give him a couple years. When he's 20, 21, I think that guy's going to be a stud. He's going to be a sensation throughout all of baseball, not just the Dodgers.
I agree with you on that. I actually did a feature on him about a month or two into the season, interviewed him, and boy, what kind of like that Madison Jeffrey. He's got that dog in him too. Super impressed with him. And you got to see a great performance last night from Christian Romero. I had not gotten to see with my own eyes him pitch a whole lot. That changeup that he was throwing last night was insane.
It was. He was really working the zone. He was doing such a great job just working these hitters, just like balancing his repertoire, making sure that no pitches were too exposed in certain situations. So these guys were just constantly on their toes. They're constantly guessing. And one of the things I like the most about him is even though he could give up a hit or two an inning, he still got out of it. He got through it. And that's what you want to see out of a pitcher. And anyone could stay out of trouble for a period of time, but you want to see guys get into a little bit of hot water, get themselves out of it. That's what makes a playoff player. It was so great to see out of him. Both pitchers on both major league playoff performances. It was really a great game. It was a great game to be at.
All right, let's dive into some of the fun stuff. We've talked about some of the rookies that have already made their major league debuts with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's talk about the 2023 draft class. That's one of the coolest things about being within vicinity of Rancho. You know, last year was Dalton Rushing and Bubba Aline and Taylor Young and Alex Freeland and that whole crew that was just, I mean, they took Rancho by storm. This year it's Jakegelof, it's joevetrano, and it's Kendall George, #1 draft pick, and all of those guys. So, hey, talk about the 2023 draft class, what it's been like getting to watch them at Rancho.
It is such a great draft class. The Dodgers are constantly topping themselves every year. And I feel like, once again, I feel like this is one of their better draft classes, one of their better prospect cores. And that's not to say anything about previous prospect cores, because they've had some amazing drafts. But this is just so good. So many guys have hit the ground running. Joevetrano, like you said, jakegelof. You got Jordanthompson, Sam Angeli, Kendall George, the first-round pick. And I am there are a few guys I'm super impressed by. Kendall George, super interesting to see. There are a lot of people who said that he was drafted perhaps based solely on his speed and that his bat might be behind, but he shows up to Rancho and he's absolutely killing it. He's hitting over 300. This dude is he doesn't look like an 18-year-old who just came into the league. Like, he looks confident. He looks strong. He looks poised. Then you have Jakegelof, who's an absolute monster at Virginia. Like, I feel like saying that he was a monster is somehow an understatement.
Yeah, right.
Because that dude, like, in playoff games, he's hitting bombs. He's hitting multi-run home runs. He's having multi-home run games. It just seems like the boundaries are endless for Jakegelof, and it's so cool to see them bringing in so many guys with playoff experience, college World Series experience. Because the Dodgers, they pride themselves on their winning culture.
No doubt.
And they're starting it off so early by bringing in guys who already come from winning cultures. Jordanthompson was on a team that won the College World Series.
Yeah.
That experience is
and he was a huge part of it at LSU, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He had critical RBIs in the game that clinched, I believe. Joevetrano is he's so good. He's so good at first base defensively. He's able to pull his defenders up when they're struggling a little bit. They have wild, bad throws, but he's so good. He's so big, so long. He's able to get to anything. His ability to pick is great, and his bat is so nice. I feel like he gives me shades of Max Muncy.
Yeah.
Big power guy, able to really put the barrel on the ball. And it's just so exciting to see.
Yeah, hard to imagine him, Emmett Sheehan, and I can't remember the third name. I actually talked to Emmett in Oklahoma City when he was back down for like 3 days before his last start in LA. and he mentioned the name. I couldn't remember it, but I was like, hey, man, you had you and Vetrano on the same team there at Boston College. He said, yeah, we had another draft pick that went like third round too. That was a loaded Boston College team, so very cool to see Joe Vetrano. A couple guys I wanted to ask you about. A wild card in Patrick Copen. You know, if you look at the stats at West Virginia, not West Virginia, please forgive me for saying that. It was Marshall. Marshall is in West Virginia. I apologize to all you Thundering Herd fans. I should not have done that. I'm sorry for that. But hey, Patrick Copen, kind of a wild card. The stats didn't look great in college. And then noahruen, a young man out of JUCO here in Texas, JUCO that I'm very, very familiar with. Just a nails tough young man that comes from the submarine position. Those are two guys that I am very interested in.
Yeah, they're super exciting to see. You know, it's so great seeing the Dodgers bring in like such a versatile crop, a bunch of dudes who could do different things in different ways. And, you know, you mentioned Patrick Copen. He's come in. He's had a short time so far with the organization, but he's looked great in the time that he's had. And it's funny that you mentioned how his college stats were not looking as great as some might want to see from a guy coming to the Dodgers. But earlier this year, there was a kid pitching with the Quakes, Lucas Webb.
Yep.
Great pitcher. He was so good with the Quakes. But you look at his college stats, but his college stats, they didn't look like the pitcher he was right now. And you might have questioned it coming into the season. And I actually asked him about it. I talked to him about it. You know, your stats in college were not as great as some might like to see, but here you are killing it. How did that happen? And he's telling me it's the small things that the coaches are able to see and make adjustments on. And for him personally, he said it was something as small as where he would have his back foot on the mound, where he would keep it on the rubber. And it's like, it's so crazy to think that these Dodger coaches are able to see something small like that, make the most minute adjustments, and then these players just take off. So it's exciting to see with kids like Copen and Ruen, just to see how these Dodger organization guys are able to just tweak them to become the best that they can be. It's super exciting to see.
Yeah, one of those pitching coaches you'd be talking about there at Rancho would be Ramon Troncoso. What an awesome dude he is. One of the funniest dudes.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, in the system. He's a really cool dude, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's a great guy. He's super friendly. He's really good at making people feel comfortable, feeling at home. And not just with the players, too, but with us, you know, camera people, us journalists and interviewers. He's able to just make you feel like you're part of the team, like you belong. And, you know, that goes for so much with just me as an interviewer. So I can only imagine what these players feel like having someone like Troncoso having their back.
Hey, next time you see Ramon, ask him about the 15-inning game in Oklahoma City.
I'll be sure to ask him. I will. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, so just tremendous talent on that Rancho as we're joined by Ryan Falla of Dodgers 2080. He also covers the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Angels there in the Los Angeles area. Does great features. Check them out over with Tim there with Dodgers 2080. So glad and thankful for Ryan Falla joining us today. Okay, wanted to ask you about a couple other guys in thayronliranzo. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Josuedepaula, raynedoncon, and wilmandiaz. I know those are some hot button topic names.
I love those guys. I love all of them. They're all so good. Josuedepaula, he comes into the organization at 18 and he's just dominating, you know. He looks like one of their best hitting prospects immediately. And I was talking to him about that last night at the game. What does it feel like coming into an organization and almost immediately becoming one of the best guys? And he's telling me, you know, you don't think too hard about it. You don't let stuff like that get to you. You take the compliment for what it is, you appreciate it, and then you move on. You look at the game, nothing else. And then you got wilmandiaz. He's so good. It's ridiculous the way he could just barrel up a ball. You got Lorenzo, who leads the team in home runs. He's just an absolute monster, which is ridiculous because the Dodgers are just so good at developing catchers. You know, they have Cartaya, they have rushing. But somehow, some way, it just feels like these guys are getting better and better, which is so great to see. There's so many young guys. If they all come up to the team together as a unit, this will probably be one of the, I don't want to speak out of bias, but one of the best Dodger cores for them to have in the longest time. You know, it'll easily rival recent memories of Matt Kemp, Andre Ethier, James Loney, championship caliber team. That's what they have here. As long as they don't trade off these guys piece by piece, there's going to be something really special coming up.
Yeah, the last group of position players I wanted to ask you about, my most underrated player in the system, in my opinion, is jesusgaliz. I think this dude has a big, big potential. Lost his dad in 2020 to COVID. He's dedicated everything to that. He's one of the hardest workers, one of just the coolest dudes in the whole organization. Super nice guy. Raynedoncon, who has great versatility, big-time power potential, big old long guy, and Jorge Puerta.
Those are all great guys. I love Doncon. He was such a bright spot during this season. 19, he's developing, he's getting better, and it was heartbreaking to see him get hurt.
Yeah.
After such a great season, and like right at the end too. I talked to him yesterday at the game. We kind of just glanced over like how he's feeling with the injury and stuff, and he's in high spirits. He feels good, which is great to see. Hopefully he can carry everything he worked on this year into next year. You mentioned Galiz. Great dude. I love him. I think he's such a great catcher. I really think that there's something special there. Again, the Dodgers just have a knack for developing catchers, which is just so fascinating to see.
And he's from Venezuela, so he's going to be a great dude. I've never literally ever met anybody from Venezuela that's not just a tremendous human being. And the last guy I wanted to talk to you about, a guy that takes my breath away every time I watch him pitch, is reinaldoyean. Hey, he's touched 100. We know that, but it's that arm side movement that he gets. It's insane watching him pitch.
Oh my God, it is so fun watching him pitch. He's such a great guy. He puts so much effort into the work that he puts in behind the scenes, and he throws high velocity, which is always great to see. He has the composure to back it up, and he's such a cool dude too. That he has a great confidence and composure on the mound and off the mound. It definitely feels like he has that major league quality stuff, which is great to see. I would love to see him succeed at the major league level. He's such a talented pitcher.
Yeah, I totally agree. Wanted to back up a little bit. Lucas Webb wanted to mention I like to give the colleges the credit they deserve. The ULM Monroe Warhawks there for Lucas Webb, originally out of Toronto, Canada. So he is a great story. But hey, one last question for me, and I asked this from everybody who's either played for Rancho or is around Rancho. Have you ever seen Shu out of uniform?
No, I never have, which is crazy to see because you tend to see these guys like, putting on casual. They're just enjoying the day, especially like way before a game. They're just going through the motions. But Shu, like he's just always ready. He's just always locked in, like mentally, like he's never out of manager mode, which is great to see. These kids, it's good for these kids to have someone to look up to who is always on 24/7. Because as a major leaguer, that's one of the most important things you could do is always be on when you're at the field. And I've talked to so many kids who have told me like one of the most important learning experiences that they've had being around like spring training environments and other major leaguers is just how to operate behind the scenes, how to operate in your day-to-day and make sure that you're always in a place mentally and physically where you can perform at any given moment. So having someone like Shu for these players to revolve around is just, it's amazing to see. These kids are so lucky. It's so great to see that for them.
Next time you see Dylan, the hitting coach there for Rancho, ask him, hey, which guys are filling up their big gulp? And he'll like that question. Yeah, he likes to say, hey, we want guys to have big gulps and we want them to fill their big gulps up. We don't want them to have a big gulp talent and only get 12 ounces out of them.
That's hilarious. I love that. I'll make sure to have a round table with the coaches next time I see them.
Hey, Ryan, any final thoughts? I certainly appreciate you coming on. Any final thoughts before we get off of here?
It's just so cool being able to see all these guys develop. And we've gone through so many of the guys. Like, it's hard to think if I've really missed anyone.
I'm sure we have.
There are guys who got called up earlier in the season, like that Chris Newell, who's also out of Virginia.
Nick Biddison,
too. Those are all great guys. And just as a Dodger fan, there's so much to look forward to. And Dodger fans are just so blessed because there's just always something coming up. There's always something new to look at. And personally, like as an Angels fan and having been interacting with the Angels organization as a journalist, Dodger fans, like sometimes they don't know how good they have it.
No,
they have
they
it so good. And I'm just so glad to be a part of all this and to be able to contribute to baseball culture in any way. And I appreciate you having me on the show. It's such a great time. Thank you again for inviting me.
Yeah, man. Hey, we would love to have you on any time that you would like to come on and give us a report from the West Coast, a firsthand report as you see it with your own eyes. So Ryan Falla, Thank you so much for joining Dodgers Daily.
Thank you again for having me, and keep up the great work. You are really doing some great work out there, and I appreciate it a lot.